5,
Oh my God,
4,
I see that. Three, two, one.
boom.
Woo! There we are. Yes. Oh my God, I see that. Three. Okay. Yeah. I'm going live on LinkedIn now.
And we're live on
Woo!
YouTube also.
I need to
Wow.
cut the sound of this, or how is that? Going live, this may take a few seconds. Yes.
Can't you mute the
I
sound on the LinkedIn?
I will. I'm going. I will. Does that work? You
Yeah.
still?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Cool.
Wow,
Uh,
Amelie, here we are.
Hello. Here we made it. We
Friday,
made it. Yay!
12.
Hello.
Hello world.
Hello world. We are just in time. All the tech is working.
Yeah.
We're good. Stream health excellent. So we
Yeah.
are very good. All
So hello
right.
world, you're really present to a very first unique thing because this is the first time that we have done this, going live on YouTube, going live on LinkedIn. The technology is luckily working. So, and I'm very grateful, Amelie, that you want to do this with me, bringing this to the world.
I'm so happy to be here. I think we are ready for this. I think we are ready for this. To finally crack the thing. Like, is it sales that meets CX or CX that meets sales? Because both are on everybody. Because CX is just the new thing. Sales is the scary thing since forever, but the necessity of our system. So yeah, I'm very happy we can finally crack it.
Yes, looking forward to it. Now, before we go into introduce one another and why we're doing
Mhm.
this, I think it's important to mention that on YouTube or on LinkedIn, Emily is looking on LinkedIn. I'm looking at YouTube. YouTube. If you have some kind of question that you have, yeah, it's keeping you awake last night or the last weeks. I mean, now is the moment. Fire it away and ask the question, and we will do our utterly best to to reply it, of course, with our own vision and our own take on it. Okay.
Shoot, fire the question in the chat.
Yeah.
Any comment is welcome, really.
Yeah.
Try us.
Yeah. And after the 1 hour you can buy our t-shirts. No, that's a joke. um Now, lady in pink, Amelie, who is
Hello.
Amelie Beerens and why are you here?
Okay, so I am a CX design and career coach. I am passionate about building solution uh, with a radical human centricity. So it's been 12 years that I'm in the digital industry. I worked in many sectors, and actually my job has been essentially the same since the beginning. I've been building digital solutions, collaborating with people, and I grew in that role. I developed many skills around digital, of course, marketing, because it was quite often my entry point. I worked in a lot of marketing departments. They like me, obviously, and to collaboration. I've been doing a lot of governance on project because that's actually where people struggle a lot, collaborating on new project, innovations, everything, related to digital transformation, the whole thing. I can tell you that's people transformation first. And yeah, it's been a few years that I've been, diving more and more into the coaching, proposing now coaching because I know how we live in a world that is confusing, especially when everything is coming. And that's what I help to do, people to find a good way to build a career thanks to coaching and mindsets. Yeah, voilà. That's who I am. And I got a podcast. I'm here on LinkedIn all the time. I love to share. I love to meet people. Yeah,
And why
and
you're
I'm
here?
excited.
Why are you doing this with me?
Because we met thanks to Michael Blais, and that he knew we could be a good match, and it was actually right. We shared your sales, you are purple, I am pink, I am all CX, but there is a immediate working match because we have been on the same kind of development roads, and uh, and we found actually a lot of similarities in CX and sales, and we thought that it was a good idea to bring that to the world because we are expert in our sector and our specific skills. I think it was the pain to share our view on this because I don't think that everybody see that yet.
No, that's correct. So I'm Peter, and where's Amelie in CX? I'm yeah skilled in sales for more than I don't know 25 years or something. I have absolutely no idea. And for me, I like to reinvent myself in terms of sales. So what I did is I try to do things which seem not to fit in one another, meaning working in small companies, working in startups, starting from scratch, all in software. Then going to a very big corporate because I thought I was going to learn more about sales, and that really is going to learn how sales is working. Then again, working again for a startup, then working for a managed services company, and now I'm working at a as a sales director for a marketing technology company. So everything comes together, which is more services based. So and there is and that's also my fascination for CX, of course. And so this is my first question to you, Emily. I mean, you, I mean, for me, associate CX within marketing as a lot of people. I mean, I talked with our CMO, Lynn Penders, and she said, I don't understand why a lot of people associate marketing with CX because it's much broader than that. I mean, what's your take on that? Because sales and marketing can be like a cat and a dog. I'm not. I love my marketing peers. It's I call it marketing. But for you, I mean, the marketing and CX. What's your thing about it?
Yeah, so like I just said, marketing, my experience collaborating in companies often starting with marketing, but it's just starting with marketing because quite easily and quite fast, I need to collaborate with all the other, yeah, we still are in the era of departments. So yeah, the other departments. And the first one usually is, client facing department people, sales. But why marketing? I think it's a long time there is a habit, a tradition to bring all new things to marketing. Because for a lot of people, marketing is still fluffy. They don't, you can, marketing will do that. That's about a client. You need some kind of advertisement. It has been very, yeah, compromised in many, many ways, the real definition of marketing. And as they're supposed to focus on the customer first, customer experience makes sense because, and I think it's just by this. But indeed, marketing and sales, they have to work a lot together. So yeah, quite quickly we have to be. I'm usually somebody in between the people in the collaboration as long as the project is developing. So, but
Okay.
I think it's a weird habit still because I would start CX where people are actually already facing the clients. And what I observe as well is marketers are good at what they do, but something they don't do much is actually facing clients, which is the first best rules of customer experience. Talk to the client. And who's talking to the client? I know you know. And that's why
Customers,
you got
customer success people.
so yeah, that's why. And how did you discover about CX? Because I mean, it's like you've done that for a while, and so suddenly there were a name for it.
Yeah, that's indeed a very good question. I, for me, for me, CX is a term which I didn't know, but at the same time, the principles behind it were in my DNA. I mean, I think when you talk about sales, I mean, I start from the customer or the potential customer. So my intention is to really yeah, create impact and create value. I mean, and to see if a certain product or service can enrich, can transform the life of that person, that company, whatever, or create revenue streams or whatever. Um, and so for me, it starts with that person, what you're trying to achieve, and and that's already a very radical approach because especially in B2B, I mean, sales has a very, especially in the 80s and 90s, a very Wolf of Wall Street type of sound where it's not about the customer, it's about shareholders or the bosses, their pockets, or I don't, but certainly not the customers. So for me, sales is all about the customer. And the first time that I heard from customer experience who put it a term on that was my neighbor. Although I have never met him in the street, but I know he's my neighbor. Is Steven van Bellegem, and he's a professor at yeah, yeah, and he talks about customer experience like for years. But I consider that as marketing, to be honest. And yeah, yeah, and then came Amélie Beerens, and that broadened my horizon. Um, and also the fact that, and this is a very strange thing, is that I fully agree you should start with your customer, and the same time we're living in a very digital era, and it's not going to go away. In contrary, I mean, the adoption of new technology is going to be faster and faster and faster. And there seems to be some kind of trends that like marketing is moving from an advertising uh, communication towards lead generation, and they're using all this kind of digital technology. And sometimes I feel like, are we talking about robots or where is the human behind this? And this is for me like a very, how do you say that? I wouldn't say dangerous, but something to take, to really take care of, and to really involve your customers into that process.
Yeah.
Instead of just having meetings internally, like you're saying, marketeers that don't speak to customers. I'm like, how do you know what they are looking for, the wordings? I mean, for me, there are a lot of assumptions there.
Yeah, but and assumptions are part of the methodology, and but I think it's also comfortable to take assumptions only. Um, and as it's part of the methodology, you're not making something wrong per se,
Hmm.
but definitely it started. I think it started with when they started to say, data is the new gold,
Okay.
and the rush to collect as much data as you want. The discussion who owns the data. That's all they can talk about. When actually what are you actually doing with these data? There are great actors now on the market to help you to actually simplify this. I'm thinking about my friends Human 37. They have a really data driven process to help companies, but they are superhuman, and they try to simplify everything at the max. So they are not like the kind of expert who comes and everything sounds complicated, so you need them to survive. No. But the data is comfortable because it gives you so many data, so many information. You can take so much assumptions, but it will never beat what you can have as a qualitative insight input of a classic client sales or client customer care discussion. And actually both are working very fine, but there is one that people resist. It's the one where you face the other person, the other human beings, and where you have to um, make a conversation out of it.
Connection.
Because yeah, it's a connection. That sounds weird for a lot of people, to make a connection with somebody who's not a friend or a family. Why? It's not my job. I mean, there is people to do that. And as well, to be confronted at something you thought was your expertise, you knew everything about. It's been 15 years, 20 years, 5 years, 5 months, you're doing the same. you have certainties, and then the person in front of you is just saying something that is switching completely the idea, and your assumption is good to be thrown away. And that's the whole process of learning, testing, failing, and everything. That's something that our brain does not like.
Yeah.
We are wired to resist that. Oh, change again? No, no. So that's very confronting way. That's why I think sales is scary for so many people. I mean, who here never had any struggle talking about sales?
Yeah.
Everybody, I guess, when you started, you also had some,
Yeah, of
some.
course.
So that
But
I think is the one.
yeah, but that's the thing is that if you look sales from a customer experience point of view, I mean, it's that simple. It's not about selling something, it's about giving an experience, and it sounds very magical and very, yeah, a little bit fluffy, but it's about that. It's really about what is the intention that you are having in connection with that person. If your intention is pure, so serving that customer or potential customer, I mean, then everything is going to go by itself. I mean, the walls will go down. I mean, there will be no longer a potential customer having a title and then a sales having a title, but two human beings connecting with each other, and they will open up. I mean, but that's my personal philosophy, and therefore I think CX is just, especially if you look at it from the point of view of marketing with the data, is an addition for the sales instead of maybe a possible threat that they're going to be replaced. Because if you know all the data, what they want, why do we need sales for that? So and I think personally that intention that you are engaging as sales, but also other people and also marketeers, is really not that scary. It's quite. I mean, that's you and me. What we're doing. You say, Peter, but you're not selling to Amélie. No, but we're. It's at the same time. For me, it's the same. It's a connection. It's also it starts with curiosity. I'm very curious because you're the expert and I'm not about CX. You see?
Yeah, that's my favorite curiosity. I think again, we can be our own enemy. Our expertise, our experience throughout years can be the worst for that, because things you used to do things a certain way, and then that's how you shined already, and that's how you made success already. But what brought you here today will maybe not bring you where you want to go later, and that's the same with your career. And when it's I observe a strong transformation with the tools of CX, because it's a complete new set of methodologies. And I think people can be familiar with them, because it's all about lean methodology: the try and fail, the test and learn, the you try, it works, you scale, you try, you fail, you kill, you try, you fail, you iterate, you all the thing. And that's not how we are. I know I didn't learn that at school already, so
No.
and voila. There is special agile or lean whatever at school yet. So it's a methodology where you need to always face resistance. You always have to face your own beliefs, your own way of collaborating with people. And this is why I started to dive so much in coaching, because in my own practice in CX, we were that's small groups of people, that's small projects. Even if it's big project, we're not much. I've been doing UX, CX, and a little bit of everything on every project, product owner, because it was quite new, and it's still quite new. So you have to be a pioneer. You have to try things out, and if you just stuck yourself into what has been done in the past, you will fail,
No.
because you will meet resistance. You will your own resistance and the resistance of other. Like, why do you want to change all of this? It was working fine. And that's all the thing about CX. I can talk about how it's important to focus on people, and all the methods to interview people, and how we can go very deep into the tactical stuff. But the whole strategy for me, it's about collaboration, and mindset because you don't collaborate with people properly on new methods to focus on something very new. If you don't train a little bit yourself, if you don't know yourself, and also, and I know we share that, the love of self-awareness, call it also maturity, in a work environment. Oh my God, this is so pleasant to have and develop. So yeah, the
Yeah,
self-awareness.
and you say a lot of magical things. I mean, I'm going to recap a little some of them because they're actually the same for sales. I mean, if you think you have a certain way of doing things in sales, and that circus trick worked for you for 10 years, I mean, there's going to, and you never ever going to look at yourself in the mirror, eh, and start looking at those beliefs, how you're doing things. I mean, there's going to become a day that it will not work anymore. So I think it's very wise to, from time to time, sometimes day to day, look at yourself, how you're doing things, interacting, collaborating. And because if you don't do that, after a while, I believe you're going to start cutting corners. I did that in the past, eh? And you do that cutting corners because you think you can go faster. But in terms of getting a real connection or a collaboration, you cannot go faster. You need to, it takes time. Normally, people don't get married on the first date either. They do other things, but they don't get married on the first date. So, and this is the thing, to really look what you're doing, to challenge yourself, and to see it's just a belief, and it tomorrow it can be another belief, or it can be replaced by another belief. It is not set in stone.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very, very important one, especially when you're longer in the business, that you tend to have this, like, yeah, repeated mechanisms. But these things are going to get in the way of the real connection, human to human. And so for me, that's a very strong point that you mentioned there. Yeah.
But yeah, and you were mentioning, are we robot now? Yeah, I think that's a tool that can be magical for many things because you can, the precious time you can save thanks to automation and everything. But the moment you start to use into a funnel to make sure that they click at the right thing and blah blah blah, when it starts to be only mechanical things that you're talking about, you you're not on the right track. You're not on
No.
the right track. The good way is having that kind of conversation with the inside of actually real people, real human being, real. I mean, like you would do in your real life. You are not talking only about operations and processes when you're at home or when you're with your friends. That's the same thing. And I know people like to make a line, a really thick line between their work and their life, but I'm sorry, I'm gonna break the news for you. If you would like to have that big line, you are still the same person. That's normally you don't do or say everything the same. I mean, we're civilized, and you adapt to your audience. That's a certainty, but still, you're still the same person. So yeah, I think people are still scared to own it. We just say that about the change, the fact that you have to look at yourself in the mirror quite often to make sure that the world is just not turning on the other side when you're still stuck on your point. And yeah, that you are just a human being, so you need to be nice with yourself. It's
Yeah,
normal to be lost.
and another also point that you mentioned is the trial and fail methodology. For me, and it's also, you know that I'm a magician also, and the thing also, the principle that I there also learned, which I also apply in business, also in sales, is that there are actually no stupid ideas. I mean, when you have an idea, I mean, I always like, let's try it and let's see if it's, yeah, if it's a good idea or a bad idea, but it's really about doing it and not having some kind of discussion. Yeah, it's a bad idea. No, sometimes doing things which you think are a little bit, yeah, and it's not going to work because this book has said that, or this book has said that, or we didn't learn that in school that way. It's because, and that's the second point I want to make, is that the things like CX and also with sales, I mean, these things you cannot learn at school. And for some kind of reason, we are conditioned that when you graduate, you think we should not learn anymore. We should not reflect anymore, and we should not challenge the things that we have learned. But that's exactly the point with change. I mean, that's the thing that's going to be here forever. It's going to change, and the change is at a rate so fast. I mean, yeah, if you're going to resist with it, it's going to hurt a lot and create a lot of pain. But if you're going to embrace the change and say, look, like when you're like a surfer on the water, I mean, riding the waves. That's another way of embracing that change. And I mean, I like that. I really like that change, and yeah, and it's like, yeah, it's today like this and it's tomorrow. So it's really having that growth mindset instead of having a fixed mindset and saying, yeah, it's like this. We've done it before. It's always been like this, and let's do it again like this.
Yeah, yeah. And I think we both, but I'm sure the people who are watching is the same, tell us. But hearing like we've always been doing this way, or it has been working for years, that can be so frustrating to hear because you come with a new idea. And I like to remind people that, yeah, if you are in that job right now, you have been hired because you have skills and you it's expected from you to come with ideas and opinion. But somehow, sometimes you got in the flow of, we've all been doing this way, and, we have only 24 hours per day. We have our own issues, and sometimes it is comfy to, lay back a little bit. But we are creative beings, and if you are interested in sales, in CX, and everything around innovations, and you keep learning, you are agitated when you face the kind of attitude which is like, yeah, laid back and not really challenging the status quo. And it is completely needed. And the latest crisis we're still surfing right now is the best example. I mean, there are a lot of people who thrived there because they were surfing that vibe. And that's also the environment you are in that allows you to innovate, allows you to fail, allows you to speak up. The way you feel about where you are is also super important. I always had the feeling, for example, you would tell me if I'm wrong, or at least it's my perception, that sales is always people in sales always have more freedom to try things than people in other departments, because you're facing the client and you need to own your shit because you need to okay, there is sales script stuff for some companies, but in a way you are improvising something because you're in conversation with somebody, and so you need your emotional intelligence right away.
Yeah.
Where
So
others, they are very much in their brain preparing everything, need the validation of everything. And so that's why as well CX and sales are very close
yeah.
in my mind. It's because sales own, because they can own more the situation.
Yeah, that's indeed a very very good remark, Amelie. Is that I see a lot of sales organizations who are very processed, who are very systematic, and there's nothing wrong with that. At the same time, it's the same with the automation of your digital transformation. Is make sure you don't exaggerate, that the system is not becoming the goal. And I fully agree with you, is that we just are just doing something, and it's a little bit negative, but I don't mean it negative. But indeed, I mean, it's not having a sales script. It's good for a junior to have some kind of something to hold on, but then by doing it a lot, it becomes second nature, and you own it, and it's no longer a script anymore, and so you're getting better and better. But at the core principle, it's really about asking great questions, and even more important, listening to understand than to be understood. Yeah, and that's instead of asking two questions and then pitching your whole, I don't know, whatever thing you want to pitch. I don't believe that. And so it's indeed true that like, for me, a great high performing sales organization is really, I wouldn't say messy, but it's really about experimenting. And for me, it is. For me personally, it is. I mean, especially with new products, I give myself like 5, 6, 7 deals. That's my secret. To experiment with whom am I talking to? What's their business case? What's the use case? What's their angle? I mean, and what's the pricing? Everything, all the parameters involved to get to that deal. I mean, and I give, like I said, I give myself 5, 6 deals, and then I know because I'm going to lose all these deals, and then at the seventh, I know it's there, it's the magic, and then it's just about fine tuning, and then I have found it, and then I can educate other people. This is how you should do it, but make it your own. So that's it's 100% correct. Yeah, and then in addition to that, and this is something I have done before. And speaking of marketeers, with me, they don't have an option not sitting around with the customer. I just book a meeting, for instance, with the marketing director or CMO, whatever marketing title or role of the customer or potential customer, and with a marketeer from my marketing colleagues. So, and they say, then they say, Peter, why did you do that? I'm like, yeah, we're going to connect. And it's indeed so. I'm then the person who are going to hold their hands and like, oh, we're going to tiptoe in the water. And then they feel like, oh, it's good water, and it's they did not bite my head off. It's not a vampire or something. No, they're paying your wages, and they're also human beings with feelings and struggles and challenges, and they can laugh too. So it's yeah. So for me, I fully agree with you. Sometimes I have to help them get out of your heads and connect a little bit from heart to heart, from human being to human being, and feel a little bit more. And indeed, and that's a little bit addition to that, is that especially for me, and I look at good salespersons, they have learned to work with and using self-awareness to train their intuition and to read the room, to feel the room, feel people.
Yeah. And that's very important. And I knew, or observing it on myself, of course, but also on my clients, that a key for that is confidence. And I think that sales is a perfect example because confidence is something you build up for sure, but it's like a real stretch for sales. I know I talk for myself because I've been scared for sales for years. That's one of my first barrier when I wanted to go independent. I was like, oh my god, but I'm gonna have to sell myself. My god. So I know how it can be scary, and that requires confidence. Well, first step, courage, and once you got the first step with the courage, then you start to build up confidence. That is something I observe is very, very key as well on CX. Super key because again, you're facing people who, that's usually not their priority. You are the CX person somewhere, you have a project, you have to build up things. CX is quite trendy, it's somewhere in the company strategy. Yes, but there's still the business going on with all the habits and the ambitions and the priorities and etc. So you also need a lot of confidence, sometimes courage, and then confidence. You juggle with the two to make it to make it work. And confidence in a work environment is not super easy to build all the time. You really need a safe place. You need mentors. You need to be clear as well on what you want to achieve there. Okay, you are now in CX or sales, but do you actually like that? Are you really curious about this? And so especially in CX where as it's new, there is not a lot of profile on the market, so you can easily you were part of the marketing department or the HR department, and then suddenly boom, you're a CX something. That's a lot of stress, and I cannot imagine if it's the same in sales, that you move in sales from like that. Confidence is a real challenge for
Yeah.
everyone. I mean, imposter syndrome is a rampant, so
Yeah, imposter syndrome. Yeah, and it's I've created also a LinkedIn post a week ago or something. It's the imposter syndrome. So I mean, thinking that you're a fraud while you're having already built some expertise is yeah, it's very human because the moment we pop out of or we come onto the world, we are trained or conditioned with one thought: we are not good enough in some kind of way, and that we are not good enough is going to haunt us for the rest of our lives. So this means also, I mean, when you see those cocky, overconfident sales, then you can think they're not confident. They're actually masking their confidence with some kind of arrogance. I mean, but in order to build real confidence, confidence for me is self love and not egoistic. It's just knowing what gives you energy, what drains your energy, where you're good at, where your strong points, your weaker points, but you don't focus on the weaker points because there are other people who have strong points who can be complementary, and that you know and that you're open for yourself, and that you can look to yourself and saying I'm enough and it's okay, and it doesn't have to be all the time. And how do you reach that? For instance, in sales, but it's the same in CX. There is no real truth and there is no real silver bullet in sales. I mean, I know there are a lot of people from different regions, from different sectors are watching and listening. There is no one course about CX or sales. No, there isn't. Every context, every era is different. Every yeah. So for me, there is no real. You should do it like this, and then it will. So what is the alternative? You just do something, you try, and you fail, or I call fail learning, and then you adapt, and then you try again, and you're getting better and better and better and better, and by doing that, so the first step, courage, you're becoming more confident because you are aware of everything is going to be fine. I'm going to be alive, and also the thing is, I'm going to do my utterly best, and that's all you can do. All you can do is all you can do, and all you can do is enough. And if you can say to yourself at the end of the day, I'm grateful because I've done my best, that's the only thing you can do. And if you made mistakes, I mean, that's then a lesson. Then you learned, and you know, okay, next time I'm going to do it differently. And you don't take that so personally. You're not going to say, you bastard, you screwed up. Why did you do that? No, no. Okay, you be kind to yourself. And if you discover thoughts about or believe that you are going to break down yourself, then it's indeed something to stand still and to take a pause there and to reflect what's under that before you go further. Because the thing is that the destination is the journey, or the journey is the destination. There is going to be never a point where you know enough and that you say, now I'm here, I'm the CX expert or the sales expert. I don't have to learn anything anymore. I mean, it's going to be boring. I mean, imagine that after playing 30 years guitar, I cannot learn anymore. Yeah, I know everything right now. No, there is not. There is so much to learn. That's the thing which keeps me fueling and inspired to learn more and to say maybe the things I learned yesterday, I have to throw them away and to learn them today again. So, bon, I keep.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I don't think it ever happens. There is no end game. There is not a point where you're like all satisfied. But that's the trap we like to fall into. I'll do when I'm this, when I've done this, then there is like sort of reward. But we're not that kind of creature. We like immediate reward. So making plans for super long, it's nice to keep a vision and have a big context for yourself so you can feel good about how you evolve and everything. That's called ambition, and that's bright. But you need to have satisfaction a little bit every day. That's why when people come to me like, how do you do this, and how we can how, yeah, it's all everywhere. All the things are there for free. There is, I mean, I'm not gonna, I can tell you how I do, but maybe a part of it gonna make you cringe because it does not feel right for you, because the way I do it is just working fine for me, working fine for the team I am now. And of course, as we are, there is always similarities in a group of people. So there is stuff I know that I've got some tricks that work with everybody, because we are different but still same kind of creature. But it is also important that you figure out the recipe for yourself. Taking a framework, taking a expert 10 bullet points to do the thing, Usually it's just inspiration. You will have to adapt the thing because the people in your team will not embrace it the way you wish. That's why collaboration is so important, because you're going to come with your plan in 10 steps. And then somebody from your team will say, okay, with my expertise, I know that the third bullet point is bullshit. Okay, fine. So let's find it now. Can we do it in 9 step? Do you have another step? And that's the whole point of collaboration, making a systems that work for the environment.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you can all the books, I'm very fan of that. And I download a lot of inspiration from book, and it's very useful because when I'm searching a solution for a problem, I can count on my inspiration. That's perfect. But I count as well on my creativity. We come back on confidence there because you need to. But yeah, I lost the track of what I was about to say. But I mean, that's why my point was go, just go with the collaboration. You're not alone in your head. You're not alone in this journey, and try to find something that is nice every day that you can be grateful, like you said. Oh, today at least I did that and I'm happy.
Yeah.
Today that was a good discussion. Today that was a learning, and we need immediate reward.
Yeah.
Counting on the thing in 5 years or 10 years, oh my god, you're gonna just burn yourself out. Or
Yeah.
hustle too long. Hustle is good for a short period of time. I'm not a fan of hustling, I have to say, but I did it. It was helpful. So I'm not gonna just bash it for free. But still, it's not sustainable. And the idea that you want to do something that is sustainable for you, taking care of yourself along the way, and so know how your brain works, and then it's easier. So you
Yeah.
can collaborate with this as well.
Yeah. But you've said a lot of things, and I'm going to combine two things. I mean,
Yeah.
collaboration with the imposter syndrome and
Ah, yeah.
with confidence. I mean, even Lady Gaga thinks she's an imposter from time to time.
Yeah.
And if you want to collaborate with people and you make a proposal, indeed with the 10 bullets and people say, the third one is bullshit. I mean, it's possible that you're being triggered and that you will feel irritated and frustrated and like, hey, what the hell? I just created this. This is my proposal, and you said point three is bullshit. Now the thing
Yeah.
is that frustration, that irritation with you is is important because it's saying something about yourself, and this means, or it is possible, that you are looking for some kind of external validation, um, some kind of, how do you call that, the approval of others about what you're
Hmm.
proposing. And that's the thing, if you're looking for external validation, and if you're going to put your happiness or your well-being, what you think of about yourself, and in the hands of other people, then I can guarantee you're going to have a very miserable life. So it's very important to, if somebody is reacting on your, yeah, your third point, I don't agree with that, is just to be very open and say, can you please explain why you do this? And at the same time, you can also say, I feel irritated because you're mentioning that. Okay, so at least you are coming together, and by having that open mind, you can also learn from that point of view, and not becoming into a situation where two egos is going to, yeah, battle against each other, because that's not collaboration. Because the thing is, if you're working with people, um, if you can create that flow state, that co-creational state, then the total is going to become more than the sum of the underlying parts. And that's where the real magic is, and that is where the real ideas are going to come into the world.
That's very, yeah, that's very true. That's very true. I like that a lot. I mean, there is the, that's how to be vulnerable at work, how to just speak your mind and be able to do it, and that's essential. I mean, it from you that you say something, you are an expert after all, and even if it's your expertise is young, it's still an expertise. I like to think that you're an expert of anything you put your heart into,
Hmm.
as long as you stay open. And yeah, I don't think it happens a lot. People are scared of being in conflict. But of course, that's the money relationship there is in the company. My boss, he decides if I got my raise or not. If, my clients, if some people does not like to be confronted or something, maybe he's never gonna sign my other contract or my extension or whatever. We all are scared for one reason or another to for conflict, or just because we don't like that. But you can really bring that in a very healthy way. It's not like you're wrong. My example with bullshit was actually a terrible one. Nobody should ever talk to anybody this way. And yeah, the example you just shared was just good. But yeah, we don't have to just take it because discussion is healthy. That's again something very good in the collaboration. That's
Yeah.
very nice. And how do you because I think then you really need a safe space for that.
Yeah.
Again, it's about confidence. Okay, you need to put yourself out. Okay, maybe I'm gonna say something and people, you scared that people laugh or whatever you think that's gonna happen and might not. But that's also, am I in a safe space? Because sometimes the relationship at work can be so unhealthy. Do you have some tips? Because you've been
Leave.
in community for a while.
Leave. I mean, yeah, no, no. I mean, I fully agree. I mean, and I think it's especially for leadership teams. It's their job to create emotional, safe environments where people can speak up, and at the same time, that's something I learned from Google and from the Saturday Night Show. Is that what they did is that everybody can say their opinion, and everybody has the same amount of time. I mean, you, Emily, and myself. The possibility is that as we are good with words, that we are good expressing in our idea, and sometimes it's possible that we take time of other people, and that other people are not wired in that way, and that they don't speak up. At the same time, they can have magical ideas. And I know for myself that if people don't know me well, sometimes I can be in a meeting quite present between brackets. So I have to be very aware of my energy in a meeting,
Yeah.
that I'm not too present just by my energy, just so I don't sometimes because certain people are more introvert, although I also am an introvert. Is that I should involve them and really say, look, what's your opinion? And it's a very energy vibey thing, to make sure that there's an emotional safe environment. Now, to answer your question on the unhealthy, I mean, if I think being in a toxic environment is going to drain energy, and it's not going to be good for you. I mean, especially not on the long term. So if that sustains that situation, I mean, for me personally, I would leave that certain unit or whatever, because it's not worth it actually. If it's toxic, they're not going to listen, they're not going to do anything with your ideas. I mean, you cannot really form that flow, that co-creation. It's just about ego. There's nothing wrong with ego, but you have to use it in the right way. So I'm like, I mean, then it's time to move on. Then it's a signal of the universe say, take the next step, take the new
Yeah.
chapter, become
Go away.
independent, take your life into your own hands, because that's the signal that you were waiting for. That's
If
maybe not
it's
the
not
answer that
this,
you're looking
yeah,
for. What?
yeah, yeah. If it's not this, it's gonna be something better.
Yeah,
So
that's
just
it. Yeah, yeah,
go
yeah.
for it. Yeah, you know what I observed just now? We have some content here. Some people who say hi on LinkedIn. Sorry, people, but I didn't refresh the page. So thank you for saying hi, and thank you for joining us. I'm checking if there is great way to look at confidence. Thank you. Yeah, I think we got people who are. In here, I got a question. But how do you make sure the person you are talking to does not immediately thinks you are trying to sell them something? Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think that's for Peter.
Um, I have multiple answers on that question. It really depends on the situation. Well, first of all, is really setting your attention. And it sounds a little fluffy, but before you enter the meeting, is that normal people, they have like their smartphones and they're looking on mails and they're in their heads. So they're still at the meeting they just had, or with that phone call, or with that mail, or whatever, or talking with another person. Myself, I rather take, even it's 30 seconds, to really feel my body and not my brain, and to really set the intention. And the intention is, look, I want to create value for that person. And even if he or she is not ready to buy, or even not buying at all, or not open to buy in the future, it doesn't matter. I'm only here to discover who is that person, what he or she is driving. And at the end of the meeting, are going to come to a kind of a conclusion that we can work together, cannot work together. Maybe she or he can introduce me to one of her peers. But that I have created value for that person. That's the first answer. The second is, sometimes I also say that literally to that person. Look, my intention here is not to sell. My intention here is to get to know you and what you're driving, because I've seen this or that in that sector, blah, blah, blah. And really speaking up that intention. Combined with that first thing, people will feel that. It's a really feel thing. People will feel it if you're there to what's in it for me, which is the selling part. It's really thinking about my commission, or really about the serving intention. People feel that immediately when you enter the meeting. And this means also, the third one is asking questions, and asking really broad questions, not questions in the area of your product or service. Really starting what, okay, for instance, 2022, we're in a, I don't know, in a crisis, or a crisis is coming. I don't know what the situation is. Are you living in a crisis? What is happening in your environment? And another question that I'm going to ask is, imagine you're at the dinner table at the 31st of December 2022, and you are eating your turkey or whatever you're eating. If you then look back at 2022, what is going to be the criteria that 2022 on a professional level has been a great year? That's one question. Or what is happening within the crisis is going to impact your work, your environment, and I'm going to start there. So it's really about starting very, I wouldn't say high level, but it's really about that person. And I even let that person, I had situations where that person said at the end of the meet, said, look, we have to close down. Was it interesting? That's it. But what are you doing? We're going to talk about that in the next meeting. So I'm waiting for the inspiration, for the other person to come to me, instead of the typical, I'm going to push something. Another question that you can ask in the beginning of the meeting is for me, a question that works every time. Look, we have 1 hour. My intention is, I want to serve you and create value. But in order to do that, after that 1 hour, what is the success criteria that this meeting is going to be the best spent time in your complete life? And based on that answer, you can lead the conversation. Does that work for you, Amélie?
For me, it sounds a very great answer. I hope you find that useful, Brit. You asked the question. I think it's wonderful, and I know how it makes, how it's sometimes very hard to just put your sales suit. And I struggled a lot with this in the beginning, until I understood that I didn't have to put a sales suit.
No.
And that's all in the attitude. That's all in the attitude. And that's also why it's so important to find your own way to do the things, because it's not because no, Peter just share with you some great tips. It's inspiration. Some of them gonna just click with you and say, oh my god, this is a great question, I'm gonna use it until I don't know. And maybe you're gonna say, for another one of the tips, you're gonna, yeah, I don't see myself doing this.
Yeah.
And that signal is super important for you. Okay, if you don't see yourself doing this, it's maybe you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
And there is other ways, and that's why it's so hard to just bring a method and just put that method down your
Yeah.
throat and say, okay, that's how you do it. That's not how you do it.
Yeah.
And that's where we also touch the confident thing, because it requires courage and then confidence to do something different. But that's also why people are all over the internet bringing inspiration of how they do
Yeah.
the how they do things can inspire you, but then you need to find your own resources to be able to take the step and do something, and
Yeah.
maybe do something different. Uh, you can have the best teachers, but you will have anyway, at one point you will need to just adapt the recipe you just received to make yours, and then it's easier, and then you don't feel like when you start something, because you don't feel forced to do something that does not feel right for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's applicable for everything.
But
Everything.
you just mentioned also the tip that Michael Hublé, but you put it in your own words, is that don't put on your sales suit. Never,
Ah,
never. Don't
voilà.
put it on. I mean, I never put it on. Because it's so strange. You then see people, very nice people, and then they put their sales suit on, and they're like, "Huh, is that the Wolf of Wall Street #2? What the hell
Yeah,
just
or they're
happened
just
here?"
feel awkward. Yeah.
And then,
I've been there. I know.
but that's also part of the journey. Yeah? That's the trial and the
Ah,
fail
yeah.
thing. It doesn't work. I did it also myself. It doesn't work.
Yeah. That's yeah, I know that's part of the game. Brit say yes, thanks. So I guess she got the inspiration she needed today. So yeah. So please, people, if you have other questions, just don't hesitate. Shoot, shoot, shoot. We're still live for a few minutes, and yeah, that's the moment. Hello, hello. We still had some hello, Jacques. Yeah. Do you think there is something you want to add, like something we forgot to say to share today, because we covered so much field? I'm
We
happy we were
uh,
on the soft skills as much, and the
me
practicals.
too. Me too. Me too. Me too. Because the how-tos are the rational head parts, the brain parts. Those are the simple parts. Because if it's
Yeah.
that simple, I mean, we wouldn't be here. We would sitting on our desert island drinking, I don't, me at least, non-alcoholic drinks. I mean, but it's that underlying layer which is the more challenging part. The deal that we have to deal with ourselves, and a lot of people forget that. So for me, we could go on, but we will not do
Yeah,
that
yeah,
because you have an event within 1 hour. So we're going to close down and thank everybody. I want to thank you,
yeah.
Emily.
Thank you, thank you. I really enjoyed talking. Thank you for those who join. And if you missed or if you catch up, don't worry, there will be replays, so you can't really miss it. So that's very nice. But thank you. I loved our discussion. I know it's not the last one, so I'm happy already. And yeah, for more CX and sales, with a new angle, I think it's important to bring that. I'm happy we did it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for listening and joining. Bye
See
bye.
you around. Bye bye.